Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer. Back in the 1800s, a bunch of hops were grown commercially in the upper Midwest part of the United States. That's before the majority of that industry moved into the northwest part of the country. Well, now there's a company in Wisconsin called Gorst Valley Hops, and their goal is to bring hop production back into that area. And they're doing so by working with a collection of farmers who are growing hops on small parcels of land that might not be productive otherwise. Now, back in August, when I went up to Wisconsin for the Great Taste of the Midwest, my buddy Bob Stemsky and I took the opportunity to tour the experimental hop yard of Gorst Valley Hops and talk to the director of the operation, James Altweiss. Isn't that right, Ellie?
Well, we are in Gorst Valley. This is Gorst Valley Hops. And so just west of Madison, Wisconsin, about 20 minutes near Sauk City, and we are in our Gorst Valley's primary experimental hop yard. We're a collective of growers, and we have growers all across the upper Midwest that have hops on an acre, 2 acres, certainly no more than 3 or 4, that are focused on producing hops as a crop in to diversify their farms. We grow, we process hops here in Madison, just west of Madison. So pelletize, hammermill. We have our own labs here. We do all the chemical analysis in-house. We do research on these hops in our lab, looking at different oil fractions in the cones and how that's impacted by processing, things like that, to get good hard data, so we can have a little bit more evidence, laboratory evidence behind our statements, where the proof is in the pint. That's our tagline, that we can produce something that a lot of brewers don't have access to quality-wise because of the scale that large grower processors have to engage in. They don't have the luxury of drying slowly or drying with low heat just because of the volume that they have. And that's what I try to teach people. It's like, these guys aren't, the large scale growers are doing what their system demands of them. And they're trying to minimize damage and keep as much quality as they can based on their scale. We're much smaller, so that gives us a lot of other avenues to explore, like very low temperature drying, very gentle processing to preserve a lot of these oils and characteristics that brewers don't necessarily see. What you're looking for is lupulin resin about that color, very bright lemon yellow. When that green grassy smell goes away, and it's followed by a very potent hop aroma, you're close, because oils are the last thing that come on and last thing that develop. So as soon as they start getting stinky, you're pretty close. I researched several different cropping strategies all across the western U.S., Central and South America is the territory that I covered doing ag research. And some of these attributes, characteristics of our production methodology with our growers, value share concept, where we help them grow. We find a market for them to grow. We do the sales and distribution and any sort of, processing that needs to happen and get the majority of the value back to them. That came out of my travels in Central America with, melon growers that were collectively growing and selling to folks like Del Monte and Dole. But they were growing on very small parcels of land. So I said, you know what, I like this idea. This makes sense. You can have, 40 hectares, so, 80 some acres of land amongst, 20 growers. And they all are very, very diversified in their crop production. No single grower is large enough to supply a big, distributor like Dole or Del Monte, so they kind of join forces, but yet they stay independent. This is Brewer's Gold. These are one of a handful of varieties that have really performed well in our, region, and specifically climatically, it's a really robust plant. It's an older variety. It's very simple genetics. It was a European crossed with a wild hop from Manitoba, and it's robust. It's got very heavy, leathery leaves, much more so than a lot of our other varieties. So that makes it more resistant to sucking insects like mites and aphids. It's moderately resistant to most fungal diseases, downy, powdery mildew. It's a huge yielder, as you can see, and it's got a very midline sort of dual purpose chemistry. We're reintroducing this variety to brewers, and it's really doing well. So for our growers, it seems like a good way to go. This plot here, our experimental plot, it's what it's about. It's about long-term experimentation so we can build our knowledge on what works best here for us, and not based on most of the research that's available now, which is in the Pacific Northwest. That's great. That's where the main production is. That's where the research needs to be focused. But what grows best for them and their production methodologies may not, and in most cases does not, translate equally well to our region. This is the Brewing 3060 hop harvester. It's comprised of 3 components. There's a stripper component on the far side there that you manually strip the leaves and the cones from. There's nothing, for harvesting and drying equipment for the 1 acre grower. Just nothing. And if you look at a plant like Brewer's Gold, it's going to take one person the better part of an hour to handpick one plant. That's exactly what it sounds like. It strips the leaves and the cones from the main vine, and then this unit sits on top of this platform. So this is elevated. And when you got 1,200 plants, that's not going to cut it. We need something else. So we researched old patents on hop harvesting equipment. There were a lot of ideas back in the late 1800s and early 1900s about hop harvesting equipment and separation equipment. But their ideas and their ingenuity outpaced their ability to actually build this stuff. It was a good idea then, but they just they didn't have the way, all the technology to do it. So we pulled a lot from those old patents and said, I think we can take the best parts of these and put them together in a small scale that's affordable for small scale growers that can dramatically reduce their harvest times. And so just this past year, we started a new company called Brewing Implement, and their sole charter is to prototype and fabricate equipment for the small scale grower. We're just crazy enough to make this work, I think. It certainly requires a little sense of adventure, let me tell you, and willing to roll with the punches. But it's building a very strong community between farmers and brewers, which is what we were out for. And just a few weeks ago, we had a Gorst Valley family reunion out here, where we brought all of our growers and all of our brewer customers together and made them talk to each other. And great times were had by all, and people are looking forward to next year. And that's what it's about, is to make sure that people know where their products, their food, I don't care if it's a textile or a hamburger or what have you, hops, know where it comes from, and make sure that those people are within arm's reach of each other. So.
Come and visit us on the web. At basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of both our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, Introduction to Wine Kits. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Write to James at basicbrewing.com, Steve at basicbrewing.com, or just use the contact form on basicbrewing.com.
What you doing, baby?